ଘଟ କାଇଁ ହଉନି ରେ? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ, କାଇଁ ହଉନି? ନା ଜଣେ ଗାଡ଼ି ନଥିଲା ତମ କଥା ହେଇଦେବି ହଉନି। Sunday morning देखले गाड़ी रास्ते के तो कनेक्ट लाइव मैच देती Like for this, good morning. Let's start the daily development discussion. The first topic is regulating freedom of speech on social media. The Karnataka High Court admonished Twitter for not complying with the blocking order by the Minister of Electronics and Information Technology (MIT). Freedom of expression and its restriction in India. So, freedom of expression under Article 19A of the Indian Constitution guarantee to every citizen of India the freedom of speech and expression. It is a fundamental right of Indian Constitution which is granted and guaranteed under Part 3 of the Constitution and considered as one basic essential fundamental right of each and every citizen in free India. Okay, but restriction on freedom. About this freedom under Article 19 is not absolute freedom. It faces certain restrictions under Article 19(2), which are as follows. So, restriction can be imposed on this freedom by the government, and that too following the constitutional direction. So, when this restriction can be imposed, matters related to the interest of the sovereignty of and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relation with foreign state, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an offence. Under such circumstances, restriction can be imposed by the government on the freedom under Article 19. Fine. So, 19(2) mention these restrictions, reasonable restrictions to be imposed by the constitutional provision again. And coming to the constitutionality of the blocking order, the Information Technology Act 2000, Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000 empower the state to issue blocking order in case of emergency on the ground such as sovereignty and integrity of India, defense of India, security of the state, friendly relation with foreign states, public order, or for preventing incitement to the commission of any or cognizable offence relating to the above. The Information Technology Rules 2009, the Information Technology Procedure and Safeguard for Blocking of Access Information by Public Rules 2009 lays down the procedure for any blocking order issued under Section 69A. Sriya Singhal versus of India. This constitutionality of the provision of the blocking order was challenged in the Sriya Singhal versus the of India case. Okay, it's very important. Under this restriction on that issue, this particular judgment is very important. They are single versus the state. Okay, but this issue, okay, in of India, this constitutionality of the provision of the blocking orders was challenged in the Sriya Singhal versus Union of India case in the Supreme Court. In this, the Supreme Court of India upheld the validity of Section 69A and the blocking rules after observing that sufficient procedural safeguards were embedded. The procedural safeguards are such provisions of recording a resound order, providing notice to the intermediary and the originator whose content was sought to be blocked. Karnataka High Court recent judgment in this dismissal the Twitter challenge. The Karnataka High Court dismissed Twitter's challenge to the issuance of blocking order by the Minister of Electronics and Information Technology in connection with the taking down of Twitter accounts and specific tweets. Turn from the Sriya Singhal case, the Karnataka High Court has held that observation in Sriya Singhal cannot be constructed to mean providing notice to the user of the content, and that even if the reasons are recorded in writing, they may be conveyed to the user. Additionally, the High Court held that claims of users whose Twitter account were blocked could not be espoused by Twitter, and that none of the affected users has approved the High Court in this matter. Issue and criticism of the judgment undermines the right to free the judgment or undermines the right to free speech and expression, and also pave the way for the state to exercise unchecked power while taking down content without following established procedure. Moreover, it exhibits a new trend to hinder digital rights and exercise. Okay. So, issue and criticism of the judgment undermine the right to freedom. The judgment undermine the right to free speech and expression, and also pave the way for the state to exercise unchecked power while taking down content without following established procedure. Moreover, it exhibit a new trend to hinder digital rights, the exercise of free speech on the ground of the dissemination of false speech. Questions on reasonable ground. Misinformation and fake news are not ground under which free speech can be restricted under Article 19(2) and Section 69A of the Information Technology Act. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that for speech to be prejudicial to maintenance of public order, there must be direct link between the speech and the potential threat to public order. However, the High Court is convinced that these blocking orders are well reasoned, even though no nexus can be established with the public order and the security of the state. Excessive and arbitrary, disproportionate internet shutdown orders, such as the one currently operating in Manipur, are routinely issued to curb this spread of false speech and misinformation. Okay, this trend to restrict fundamental rights. So, the Supreme Court has repeatedly held that for speech to be prejudicial to maintenance of public order, there is no direct link between the speech and the potential threat to public order. However, the High Court is convinced that those blocking orders are well reasoned, even though no nexus can be established with the public order and the security of the state. Excessive and arbitrary disproportionate internet shutdown orders, such as the one currently operating in Manipur, are routinely issued to curb the spread of false speech and misinformation. This trend to restrict fundamental rights with the fake news rhetoric is reminiscent of the oft-cited rhetoric of the state invoking. Okay, so this trend to restrict fundamental rights with the fake news rhetoric is reminiscent of the oft-cited rhetoric of the state invoking national security to justify law that are excessive and arbitrary. The Karnataka High Court judgment subvert the procedural safeguards that must be employed while restricting the freedom of speech and erode the principle of natural justice, which dictate for the affected party to be allowed to present their case to the best of their abilities. Limiting future speech and expression, the High Court rejected Twitter's contention that Section 69A only permits the blocking of specific tweets. Wholesale blocking of Twitter account amounts to prior restraint on the freedom of speech and expression, limiting future speech and expression. So, which was rejected by the High Court. So there are disastrous effects of misinformation chaos, including globalized and unregulated online information space that encourage fake news and propaganda. The state should have a robust regulatory framework for the same. Freedom of the press is crucial to the functioning of a vibrant democracy. Hence, the government should ensure its well-being. Freedom of speech and expression is a complex right, as it may be subject to reasonable restrictions, and it is not absolute and carries with it special duty and responsibility on the part of the person who want to. Okay, okay. So next topic, scheme to support minor rape victims. The center is coming up with a scheme for the medical and legal aftercare of the rape victims and gang rape survivors in POCSO cases. So prevention of a child from sexual offences cases if they are abandoned by their families. Umbrella scheme, the new scheme is launched under the aegis of the Nirbhaya scheme. The scheme aims to ensure both infrastructural and financial support for minor pregnant victims who have no means to fend for themselves. The scheme aims to facilitate immediate, emergency, and non-emergency access to a range of services, including access to education, police assistance, counseling, legal support, and insurance cover for the girl child victim and her newborn under one roof. An amount of 74.1 crore has been allocated for the same. The government has leveraged the administrative structure of the mission Bachelor in collaboration with the state government, the child care institutions to actualize this support to minor victims in the rape victims or mass rape victims. The new scheme covers. Okay. Along with legal aid, the girls who have been abandoned by their family due to forced pregnancy, either due to see mastocytic fraudulent national insurance the result बाहर जो आजकल लिख रहे हैं ऐसे कर दियो ना तक भी एंटीबॉडी दिया और जो ना अपना सपोर्ट सेल तुम्हें कर दिया जी हां रिजल्ट बेरी जे माने आजकल जो बाहर जीव 14-15 इंटरव्यू स्टार्ट जो लोगों दबाना हो लगे देख दिया okay. So the medical benefit available to beneficiary of the scheme includes maternity, neonatal and infant care. Separate space will be allocated at the child care homes for the scheme's beneficiary as her needs could be. Okay. Along with legal aid, the girls who have been abandoned by their family. Okay. So, due to forced pregnancy, either due to rape or any other reason, have no more to support themselves, will also be provided with self transportation for attending court hearings. The medical benefit available to beneficiaries of the scheme include maternity, neonatal, and infant care. Separate space will be allocated at the child care home for the scheme's beneficiary, as her needs would be different from other children residing there. A case worker will be appointed for taking care of the rape victims, and separate funds shall be provided by the center to the child care home sheltering the scheme's beneficiaries. Fine. Formalities. It is not mandatory for the girl child victim to produce a copy of the FIR for availing the benefit under the scheme. However, the person responsible for the implementation of the scheme need to ensure that the police are informed and the FIR is registered. The Nirbhaya scheme, in a bid to counter abuse against women and girls, Nirbhaya Fund was announced in 2013 Union Budget for the Delhi Nirbhaya case. The fund was started with a corpus of 1,000 crore. The fund is administered by the Department of Economic Affairs of the Finance Ministry. The Ministry of Women and Child Development is the nodal agency for Nirbhaya Fund. Those schemes are implemented by several union ministries, state government, and other agencies, including non-governmental outfits. Scheme under the Nirbhaya Fund, Ministry of Women and Child Development has initiated three schemes under the Nirbhaya Fund. They are one-stop center. They are popularly known as Sakhi centers. The scheme began to function across India from April 2015. The scheme aims to establish center to facilitate women who are victims of violence. The center provides first aid, medical aid, police assistance, legal aid, and counseling support. About 186 center will be made operational by so there have been so many centers have been opened. Universalization by Women Helpline. The Department of Telecommunications has allocated the number 181 for Women Helpline. As of now, Women Helplines are already operational in 18 states and union territory. The helplines number will link the one-stop center being established under the Nirbhaya Fund. The Mahila Police Volunteer Scheme. The Mahila Police Volunteers envisages to act as a link between police and the community and help women in distress. Haryana has become the first state to start this scheme in December 2016. Other states followed it. Issue of fund release. Haryana, which was the first to implement the Mahila Police Volunteer Scheme, is the only state to report 100% utilization. While the scheme was supposed to be taken up by all the states after its pilot in 2021, only 13 states and union territory reported any fund release from the ministry. Okay, so moving ahead, budgeting and planning processes. Okay, budgeting and planning process must be informed by the deeper understanding of violence against women The guidelines governing the use of the Nirbhaya Fund should be broadened to incentivize interventions in other areas such as education, health, sanitation, public infrastructure, and economic empowerment of women. For instance, Kerala is in its gender budget for 21-22 has allocated resources for medical care of women victims of violence, gender awareness in police stations, and basic amenity in public places for women. Fine. So, okay. So, a shift in approach required towards preventing crime against women with a focus on behavioral change and sensitization. Central ministries and state can provide training on how to design and implement, okay, a project in this domain in alignment with their specific needs. Fine. So this is the new thing. Annual allocation for the Nirbhaya fund should be increased progressively so that existing project can be strengthened and new projects in wider range of domain can be financed. Given that this fund is limited, we must ensure that 100% of the money is utilized to assist women. The Ministry of Home Affairs can be given a separate budget for police reforms, and part of these expenses can feature in the gender budget statement as an overall commitment to increase safety for women. Fine. Then the Swami Fund. Recently, the Prime Minister of India congratulated new home owners in Bengaluru. First project under the Swami Funds. The special window for affordable and mid-income housing investment fund is a social impact fund, especially formed for completing stretched and stalled residential projects. The fund is supported by the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. It is managed by the SBI Capital Venture Limited, a State Bank Group company. It has one of the largest domestic real estate private equity teams focused only on funding and monitoring the completion of stressed housing projects. It is a category 2 alternative investment fund, debt fund registered with the Security and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, the capital market regulator. Eligibility criteria for funding: real estate project must be registered under the Real Estate Regulation Act 2016. Project must be classified as non-performing asset or be under insolvency proceeding. The project should have been cleared as a start for delayed project by a competent authority. The fund is available only for projects that fall under the affordable and mid-income housing categories. Then the e-Saras app, the next news. Recently, the e-Saras mobile app was launched by the Secretary of Union Ministry. Okay. So what is this? It is an e-commerce mobile app which will be used as a more effective platform for marketing of the product made by women and self-help group. It is an initiative conceived by the Dindal Upadhyay, that National Rural Livelihood Mission. Okay, Minister of Rural Development towards the marketing of the best authentic handicrafts and handlooms. This initiative promotes the spirit of vocal and local living further with the easier marketing of products prepared by the self-help group. Along with that, the ESRS Fulfillment Center was also inaugurated. This center will be managed by the Foundation for Development Rural Value Chains, a not very profit company constituted jointly by the Ministry of Rural Development and the Tata Trust. This center will be used for processing, packaging and shipping of products that customers purchase through the eSaras portal and eSaras mobile app. It will handle the logistic required to bring an online order to a customer's doorstep. Key fact about this NRLM, what is this NRLM? Okay, so this is a national rural livelihood mission in the flagship program of the Ministry of Rural Development. It aims in promoting poverty reduction through building strong institutions for the poor, particularly women, and enabling these institutions to access a range of financial services and livelihoods. Key features: universal social mobilization. At least one woman member from each identified rural poor household is to be brought under the self-help group network in a time-bound manner. Participatory identification of the poor. All households identified as poor through this participatory identification procedure in the NRLM target group and is eligible for all benefits under the program. Community fund as resources in perpetuity. The NRLM provides revolving fund and community investment fund as resources in perpetuity to the institutions of the poor to strengthen their institutional and financial management capacity. Then the Diamond League, Neeraj Chopra won gold in the javelin throw at the Diamond League in Lausanne, a city in Lake Geneva in Switzerland. This was his second consecutive Diamond League win in the season, following the win at Doha in May 2023. The Diamond League is an annual series of elite track and field competition. It was started in 2010 as a replacement for the previous AIAAF Golden League and AIAF World Athletic Financial Events. Again, the Diamond League is organized by the World Athletics, formerly the AIAAF, or the International Association for the Athletic Federation, the international governing body for the athletes. In 2023, Diamond League, the 14th edition of the Diamond League, began in May 2023 in Doha. the capital Qatar. The 15th member in this edition are scheduled at various cities across the world. The final will be held in September 23 in Eugene, that in United States. Okay. Osmosis. Recently, the osmosis was in CD news. So why the osmosis was in news? Okay. So it is osmosis. It is a term used to refer especially to the diffusion of water across a differently or semi-permeable membrane. It is a common physical process observed in living cells and tissues of all organisms. It occurs spontaneously in response to driving force, or the net direction and rate of osmosis depends on both the pressure gradient and concentration gradient. Water will move from its region of higher chemical potential to its region of lower chemical potential until equilibrium is reached. An equilibrium, the two chambers should have the same water potential. A German plant physiologist named William Pfeffer first thoughtfully studied osmosis in 1877 after various other studies by other scholars on key membranes. It is increasingly important in biology while liquid move from one part of an organism to another through the cellular membranes that are semi-permeable. In trees, osmosis is part of the pumping system that transport water nutrients up from the roots to the leaves. Okay, that is called osmosis. Then Swami Vivekananda, every year 4th July is observed as the death anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, who is regarded as one of the finest spiritual leaders and intellect India has produced. He was born at Narendranath Datta on 12th February, January 1863. National Youth Day is held every year to observe the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. In 1893, upon the request of Maharaj Adit Singh of the Khetri state, he took the name of Vivekananda. Contribution introduced the world to the Indian philosophy of Vedanta and Yoga. He preached Neo Vedanta and interpretation of the Hinduism through a Western lens and believed in combining spirituality with the material progress. Led the greatest emphasis on education for the regeneration of our motherland, advocated in man-making character building education. Best known for his speech at the World Parliament of Religion at Chicago in 1893, spelled out the four pathways of attaining moksha from the worldly pleasure and attachment in his book Raja Yoga, Kama Yoga, then the Jnana Yoga and the Bhakti Yoga. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose has called Swami Vivekananda as maker of modern India. Associate organizations, you are the chief disciple of the 19th century mystic Ramakrishna Paramahansa and established the Ramakrishna Mission in 1897. Ramakrishna Mission is an organization which works in the area of value-based education, culture, health, women's empowerment, youth and tribal welfare, and relief and rehabilitation. In 1899, he established the Belur Mutt, which became his permanent abode subsequently. He died at Belur Mutt in 1902. Belur Mutt, located in West Bengal, is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Math and the Ramakrishna Mission at present. Then the question of the day, Lucknow Pact between the Congress and the Muslim League as an acceptance of the separate interest. Okay. The Lucknow Part was agreement reached between the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League at a joint session of both the parties held in Lucknow in December 1916. Though the fact the two parties agreed to allow representation to religious minorities in the provincial legislature, the Lucknow Pact between the Congress and the Muslim League could be considered an important event in course of the national struggle for freedom. Following conditions were accepted by the Congress and the League, and the League agreed to present joint constitutional demand with the Congress to the government. The Congress accepted the Muslim League's position on separate electorates, which could continue till any one community demanded joint electorates. The Muslims were also granted a fixed proportion of seat in the legislature at all India and provincial levels. The Congress and the League made the following joint demand to the British. The government should declare that it could confer self-government on Indian at an early date. The representative assembly at the central as well as the provincial level should be further expanded with an elected majority and more power given to them. The term of the legislative council should be 5 years. The salaries of the Secretary of State for India should be paid by the British Treasury and not drawn from Indian funds. Half the members of the viceroys and provincial governors executive council should be Indians as per the provisions. Okay, so half the members of the council should be Indians. There is no doubt that the Lucknow Pact was a sincere attempt to strike unity between the Congress and the Muslim League, but at the same time, it was also responsible for sowing the seed of Muslim separatism, which finally resulted in the demand for a separate homeland for the Muslims. The negative followed the Lucknow Pact were as follows. Okay. The three communal points of the Lucknow Pact were the number of Muslims in the provincial council should be laid down province by province. Muslims should be given one-third representation in central government. There should be separate electorate for all communities until they ask for joint electorate. While the effort of the Congress and the Muslim League to put off united front as a farsighted one, the acceptance of the principle of separate electorate by the Congress implied that the Congress and the League came together as a separate political entities. This was a major landmarking in the revolution of two nation theory by the Muslim League. It is under the Lucknow Pact that the Muslims were recognized as the separate community with separate interest and which can be taken care by the Muslim only. Gandhiji was critical of the fact and pointed out that it amounted to treating Hindus and Muslims as separate uh, from each other. Okay, that is what the issue. Also, it was the earliest phase of national movement, while the leader of the two groups came together. Effort to bring together the masses from the two communities were not considered. When the mass phase of the national movement started, people were divided on communal lines. The Muslim League got the veto power to stop any bill from being passed by the provision that any community can stop a bill through a three-fourth majority, thus bringing in an obstructionist method in functioning of legislature and blocking pro-freedom demand made by the Congress. Then the conclusion, the controversial decision to accept the principle of separate electorate represented a serious desire on the part of the Congress to allay minority fears of majority domination. Moreover, there was a large amount of enthusiasm generated among the people by this reunion. If the government decided to placate the nationalists by declaring its intent to grant self-government to Indian in times to come, as continued in the Montagu August